How do I start a business? How do I start talking to people? How do I start pursuing my goals? By starting. Advice is not starting. Asking for advice is making you stupid. Most people ask for advice because they fear the embarrassment and failure that everyone else went through to achieve their goals. Now, don't get me wrong, advice is not always a bad thing. But if the 99% of people that are unsuccessful ask for 99% of the advice, maybe there is a lesson there. That's why there are books upon books on how to start a business or how to get six-pack abs, and 99% of people still don't have those things. And 99% of the questions that people ask are so vague that it is literally impossible to answer. It's just a waste of time to ask the question in the first place. Because it's like, yes, let me write 4 books and create 100 YouTube videos on the subject so you can completely understand it to the point where you can avoid any and all trial and error and failure that I went through in order to get what you want. Write your own book, live your own life, stop sitting around doing things that don't result in experience boosts. You will never get a truly actionable answer by outsourcing your entire learning journey out of fear of that journey. The problem is a lack of understanding. People don't understand how to learn. They've never sat down and contemplated what the learning process looks like. And most people haven't asked for advice on how to learn. So my point is that people are asking the wrong questions from the start. When they approach a new goal, they don't have the learning process framing their decisions. Step 1 is to have a conscious, meaningful goal. Step 2 is to start forming the habits that allow that goal to be achieved. Step 3 is to manage the pain and emotions that come with identity change. Step 4 is to program your mind with information relevant to that goal. Step 5 is to experiment with different techniques. Step 6 is to seek technical advice when you encounter problems along the way. And when you get to that last part, advice is only as good as it is specific to your situation. Books, podcasts, articles, and social media content have great advice, but only 0.001% of it applies to the exact situation you are in. The millions of bits of information you can perceive at this very moment of your life will be vastly different in the next second and completely different from anyone else's experiences and interpretation of that experience. Only once you are in a state of pain, struggle, or challenge can you receive the insight necessary to transcend to the next level. There is a process to receiving the best advice. That way you don't get mentally overweight with useless knowledge. So let's break down identity change, self-experimentation, and how to ask for the best advice so that you can actually get results. Most people don't need more advice. They need powerful ideas to shape their worldview and decision making. That way they can make better choices, figure it out for themselves, and reap the dopamine that comes from trial and error. The reason you haven't achieved a goal is because you aren't the person that would have achieved that goal. Every new goal you set is like throwing an anchor into the unknown. Every new goal you set demands a new worldview, specific skills, and beliefs that form who you are. Like a video game, there's a reason you aren't level 100. You lack the character development that turns you into a level 100. In video games, risks aren't real. In real life, risks are real, but they're often overconflated with thought. All change requires a change in identity. You can't just ask for advice and expect it to give you the experience necessary to reach the level of the goal you've set for yourself. And when was the last time that you actually took the advice that you asked for? Seriously. And out of all of the advice that you've gotten and not necessarily asked for, how much have you actually listened to? Because technically every single thing you read is advice. There's an underlying lesson behind it. But how many things did you learn today? How many lessons did you actually integrate into your being today? Most advice isn't applicable to your current level of goals and understanding. A level 100 is going to tell you something that makes sense to them, but not to a level 10. People don't realize that the difference in experience is exponential. In a game, each higher level requires more experience. Getting from level 10 to 11 may require 300 experience points. Getting from level 99 to 100 would require 100 times that amount. As a beginner, you don't have to change too much. You can change a few habits, set aside an hour a day, and you can replace your income within a year-ish. After that, the real self-development journey begins. Progress starts to slow down like the newbie gains phenomenon in the gym. You gain strength and muscle rapidly for like the first year, and then it starts to become a slow and painful grind. And if you don't back that pursuit with a philosophical sense of mastery and meaning, then you're not going to stick it out. If your identity is not patient, focused on the long term, risk tolerant, and a lover of failure, you will lose. The first step to changing who you are is programming your worldview. Your worldview influences the openness of your perspective. The openness of your perspective influences your perception of situations. Your perception of situations influences the decisions you make. The decisions you make influence how you act. Your actions form an information feedback loop that programs your identity or sense of self. Your identity shapes your worldview, and your worldview shapes your identity. So how do you begin to change who you are? By treating self-education and skill acquisition as a part of everyday life, a necessity. Because it baffles me that so few people actually do this. They want to become a better person. They want to achieve great things. They want to be at peace, but they don't realize that their ability to maneuver toward these desirable outcomes comes from having the skill to do so. Skill is where the mind meets life. Skill is cultivated through education and practice. The difference between where you are and what you want is skill, not belief, not knowledge, not environment, not socioeconomic status, not your upbringing. All of those are variables. Powerful ones that are trumped by skill. It all starts by programming your mind with the right inputs. Swap mindless scrolling for intentional learning. They're the same thing, just a different way of approaching it, a different intention. One has a goal, one doesn't. Swap video games for building new projects. So the same thing, building projects, is a video game in the real world. And now I'm not telling you, we'll talk about this in the next newsletter, I'm not telling you to quit video games. I'm telling you that you need a foundational habit of learning and execution in your life. And if you don't have those things, then you have no business doing other things. If your daily life doesn't consist of the things that not only bring you peace and progress, then what are you doing? You're dead. Swap sleeping in for a morning walk with a podcast, because that alone, just filling your mind with this information that will expose you to new potentials for your life, is just a very good thing to have. It brings some clarity and vision into your mornings. Learning leads to awareness of opportunity. Awareness of opportunity creates motivation. Continuous learning every single day changes your decision making with time. So the second step to changing who you are is understanding the pain of identity change. Changing who you are is like sculpting a work of art. By the time you turn 18, you are like a giant square slab of marble that looks, feels, and acts ugly. The first decision is the most painful, a commitment to change, to pop an arm out of the marble against its will so you can start sculpting away. But be careful, if you strike too hard, you may destroy the entire slab. You must make small, precise taps to sculpt your ideal mental physique. Every situation that you go through in life presents a small tap that can be made. You must approach situations consciously. When you feel that spike of anxiety because you're entering something that's unknown, you have to pause and push through. The pain is temporary. Now, step 3 to changing who you are is understanding that pain is rather enjoyable and that death gives life. It allows life to happen. I was listening to an older Frank Yang Roof Talk video, and he brought up an interesting way of looking at things where he's not saying that this is absolute truth. This is just him theorizing, philosophizing. And I thought it was really interesting where he said that he first said that Freud says that we have 2 drives. We have the sex drive, which is creation, survival, and extending our lives in the matrix or the video game of life. And then the death drive, which is destruction or absolute oneness or returning to infinity. We enjoy pain, but many people hide from that and inflict more unbearable pain with surface level pleasurable activities that keep you comfortable. So some seek out the good pain, the one that brings the meaning and fulfillment, or allows you to let a part of yourself die so that another part can grow. So when you're in the gym, people enjoy that pain when they are pushing through, seeing that progress, and it feels good. Because what you're doing is you're kind of tearing apart or destroying muscle cells so that new ones can grow or they can expand, they can transcend on this physical level here. But again, there's mental bodybuilding where you are allowing a certain part of your identity to die so that a new one can spring up and emerge and transcend the old one so that you have a higher, more holistic self. So the lesson is that you want to kind of curate an environment like the gym, but in multiple areas of your life, to generate suffering that leads to new life. And so this is also what monks and mystics are doing when they are trying to kill the ego or experience ego death, is they are shedding layers of thought to the point where they are becoming more at one with what is, or nothingness. Now, We don't have to go too far down that rabbit hole because that would change the topic entirely. But I just thought it was interesting to think about that and to take that into account, is that many people subject themselves to something that is much more painful because they are pursuing pleasure. And those that pursue pain enjoy doing that. So now we understand that all change requires a change in identity. Now we need to understand the power of self-experimentation and how it is the only way to solve your problems for good. Observation. Most smart people I know, when they want to learn something, immediately Google what they want and go down a rabbit hole. Everyone else asks for all the information to be given to them, rarely get a complete answer, and get distracted within 5 minutes. That is a previous tweet of mine. I just thought it was an interesting observation. Self-experimentation is the only way to solve your problems for good. Self-experimentation and self-reliance go hand in hand. They feed into each other. Self-experimentation is how you avoid the dangerous nature of prescriptions and how-to advice. Here's a hypothetical problem: not having enough money to do what you enjoy with your time. So person A follows exactly what a money guru says. They start investing a few bucks here and there. They play it safe with their stocks. They downgrade their car so they don't have that monthly expense. And person B, they pull advice from multiple sources to make decisions for themselves. They use how-to advice, but only to discover principles that can be integrated into the pursuit of their goals. They study religiously, but do not attach to business, health, or social ideologies that keep them stagnant. Eventually, with education and effort, it clicks and they know how to make it work. I recently saw a post on Instagram that said something along the lines of how wealth generation is slow, which I agree with, but not as slow as they made it seem. The post was about how every person that has become a millionaire under 30 either did it from an inheritance, a high income, or a large income event like crypto. And the person that shared the post mentioned that they've been budgeting for so long. They're like 35. They've been doing this for 10 years and they're only like halfway to $1 million. And I say this for perspective. In some cases, I feel like it's inspiring. Like I was inspired by someone when I heard that they were doing the same thing as me and they hit their first 100K month. And so that's kind of why I'm saying that this, even though it feels uncomfortable to say it, is that I became a liquid millionaire at 26 until I invested 50% of that into a new business. And I've generated 2.5 to 3.5 million as a one-person business, and now I'm kind of evolving past that. But the thing is that like nobody could teach me to do this. And another thing here is that when you read this advice, again, where it's like stop asking for advice, the main lesson of this video is that when you read advice like this, you're like, oh, okay, all people under 30 only reached it because of this. There's no new way that I can create. There's no new path that I can forge by doing my own thing. There's no amount of education or skill that I can acquire that will allow me to surpass the average limits that people impose on themselves. And that's exactly the thing, is that you can create a new path. There's so many technological advancements happening right now in this very moment that you're in such a beautiful place to actually start making progress and do what you want. That wasn't a possibility a few years ago. That's what I'm saying here, is that the advice that person gave about people under 30 only hitting $1 million because of X, Y, and Z, it's like, yeah, you may have been right 10 years ago, but now there are many case studies arguing against that. And that's exactly the thing, is I can't teach you the exact path because it's highly individual. It's the scientific method. It's trial, error, discovery, hypothesis, iteration, figuring it out for yourself just by making it a part of your lifestyle, right? People are like, oh, I'm going to do this thing for a month and see if it works out. No, do it for your entire fucking life and see if it works out. And so I can't teach you the exact path, but I can give you like the meta structure and the systems and the principles for what will make it work. And that's why I make these videos. That's why I have 2-Hour Writer and Digital Economics in the description, is because these are valuable things. But what I'm saying, the entire lesson behind this video is that you need to take it on yourself to get results and pull from multiple perspectives and experiment with things until it works. You can't just blindly trust me or anyone else with your success. That's why people go to school, blindly trust the school, and then end up in a life that they hate because they're the product of that entity. They aren't a product of themselves. They didn't create themselves. So let's walk through steps or a system that allow you to achieve any goal you want. Step 1 is to have a conscious goal. Goals provide a frame for your decision making. And I don't want to hear the regurgitated systems are greater than goals advice that you got from James Clear. You don't have a system without a goal. Simple as that. You need a goal that grows into a vision, one that you keep top of mind so you can collect fuel to the motivation that it gives you. You don't just feel ultra motivated out of nowhere. You sit with a goal, experience life, and generate reasons to achieve that goal through study and observation. The more energy you invest in a goal through education and effort, the stronger the gravity of that goal. It begins to pull you toward it effortlessly because the big picture is greater than the technical details. This is like an operating principle for my life. And I actually learned this from Leo Gura with actualize.org. Please go watch his video, 65 Principles for the Good Life. That is like, I watched that maybe 5 years ago and I've been watching it like every year since. Every single principle in that book is like, not the book, the video is like, as you go through life and you revisit that video, you're like, wow, like he was right the entire time. You may not understand some of them at first, but this principle, big picture understanding is greater than technical details, is so important. And it's also saying that principles are greater than tactics, but this does not eliminate the need for technical details and tactics, right? None of this stuff is black and white, just like how systems don't remove the need for goals. You will fail in business if you do not understand every moving piece of the business you are trying to build. You will fail in fitness if you don't have a holistic understanding of your body, nutrition, and training. And if you don't understand the vast negative impacts of the environment, modern foods, and stress, you will succumb to them. Awareness makes positive decision-making much, much easier. If you don't have a big picture understanding of what you wish to achieve, you become susceptible to ideologies that are by definition of an ideology untrue in a relative world. You will fall for get-rich-quick schemes, fad diets, and strict advice just to start over from scratch when you realize they aren't sustainable. When you approach a goal, education and effort go hand in hand to create understanding. So purchase general books, listen to podcasts, and follow social media accounts that dish out various perspectives. Pursue your goal with the time you have and implement what you learn. Action solidifies true knowledge. Adjust your decision making as you learn. You will suck at first, but that's the reality of any new endeavor. So step 3 is to experiment with various techniques. Because as you educate towards your goal, right? I'm talking your daily education habit and immersing yourself in the information that will allow you to acquire the knowledge to achieve a goal, you will discover techniques to test. In business, this looks like writing advice, lead generation advice, best business models, and anything else you can find with a quick Google search. This is easily accessible information that anyone can and will find and try to do. There's a lot of competition here. And I wish I could give concrete advice with like explaining how to experiment with things, but it's as simple as just experimenting with the things that you learn and trying them out. When you learn something new and the dopamine increases and you're like, oh wow, that's actually really good advice. I need to understand, like I need to note this down and try it. Then actually try it and try to get results. And once you do that enough with multiple techniques, you start to create your own. Where if I go to the gym and I experiment with high intensity training like Mike Menser, high volume training, maybe something completely different like CrossFit training, and then running. And from all of those, I pull principles and do what I enjoy, but I understand that I'm still making progress, whether it be optimal or just enjoyable. And I can start to craft something that really suits me and gets me the best results because it's sustainable. And it's the same thing with me trying and failing at 7 different business models. I try all of these things. I let truth blur in the middle of, oh, okay, I need to connect these dots. This is what helps make a business work. And then eventually I create something that is very unique to me because I have this amalgamation of skills and interests and just who I am that allow me to build something relatively unique. Now, step 4 is to systemize what works. As you gain clarity on what you want to do, there will be levers that bring you the most results. Certain techniques will get you 1% better results than the next person. That is your edge because that 1% compounds. I can write 30 minutes every morning and repurpose that content for all platforms. This is what, with time, I realized is what brought in the followers and sales. It's content for any business model, not just like me talking to you now, for the businesses that I'm going to start in the future and the businesses that I've had in the past. I saw writing as a lever for traffic. I saw a newsletter as an infinitely repurposable piece of content. It took me a long time at first because I wasn't efficient. I didn't have the skill under my belt. So it took longer, but now it takes me about 30 minutes to an hour in the morning. That's what I do. And the things that I do now won't look the same as a absolute beginner, because on something like social media, you're going to have to reply like a madman to get eyes on your account and content, practice writing content that gets shared and brings in followers, build a product or service that solves your own problems, and start to write longer form content to build trust and make sales. Because it's like, I say, oh, I write 30 minutes every morning. But if you don't have a product that allows you to do that, then it doesn't really make sense. You're going to have to think big picture about your business and realize, okay, I'm going to have to dedicate time to this. And then once that's automated, then I start dedicating time to this more. And then eventually you create this system that allows you to sustain everything. And so this video wasn't the most actionable, but I feel like it's very important. It's again, to frame your decision making, because for every piece of actionable advice, the thing that people just drool over, there's 100,000 people that don't see any results with it. So stop masturbating mentally to all actionable advice and no fluff. Oh, give me the pure value. Don't leave the fluff in there. Just take it all out. You don't understand what the fluff is and why it's important. And you only perceive it as fluff is because, well, what one person perceives as fluff, other person perceives as just pure value. And so there's a reason behind that, and you ignoring that or just being like, oh, the fluff of this video or this book is so, like, why is it even there? When that's what changes the lives. Don't be an advice junkie. Do what you want and get better at doing it through education and effort. Have a great rest of your week. That's it. To our writer, if you want to learn high impact digital writing, high value skill, link in the description. Digital economics if you want to productize yourself or turn yourself into a business. Again, link in the description. 7 Days to Genius Ideas or the Power Planner, both free tools for note-taking, planning, and idea generation. I recommend starting there. Like, subscribe, all that cool stuff. That's it. Bye.